They came back to South Africa, and he came on the tour of South Africa.
Yeah.
And his first test was at Wanderers, and then Alan Donald and a couple of the guys were bowling quite quick, and he kept stepping away and flying it over the slips for 4s and 6s.
Oh.
And I can still remember walking up and saying, "You're scared, my boy. You'll never make it in this game. You're scared. You chicken. You're running away. What's wrong with you?" But he was so far ahead of all of us in his technique and how he played.
Yeah.
He was light years ahead of us in the way he played.
Welcome to The Biggest Man in Cricket with your host, David Brooke.
I'm very privileged to have you guys here today. A legendary. It's our first duo, our first father-son duo. I think it will probably be one of the very few father-son duos we'll ever have here on The Biggest Man in Cricket. So thank you and welcome to the podcast today, Stephen and the legendary Jimmy Cook. Thank you very much for being here. We cheers here with coffee. We do this as a little tradition.
Thanks, Brookie. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much for being here. Let me start with age before beauty. Let's go that route. The legendary Jimmy Cook. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. Keeping going at my older age now.
You look fantastic.
But yeah, keeping going in cricket. I've stayed in cricket all along now with Gary Kirsten's academy in Cape Town now.
Yeah.
And thoroughly enjoying it down here. Been here now for about 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Out of Joburg originally, obviously.
You're a Gauteng man all your life, and we'll get into that that era, I'm sure. But no, you moved here when Stephen moved down there, effectively.
No, they came down a bit earlier than me. I stayed along in Joburg a bit more, but I was running my academy up in Johannesburg and going very successfully. So I stuck around there. But eventually, the grandkids come along and the kids are around and telling me how wonderful Cape Town is. So eventually, you see the light and you come down here.
It must have been a big move, a big moment for Gauteng, for the Cook family to leave Gauteng. I mean, the name Cook was synonymous not only with cricket, but with Gauteng cricket.
Yeah, I think in a way that's true. I didn't really get that much involved with Gauteng as such in a junior role, but certainly amongst in the senior teams and that, yes, in club cricket, and was heavily involved in that. And Stephen obviously coming up and doing well and getting involved as well. So yeah, I suppose in a way we were quite big in Gauteng cricket.
Stephen, welcome.
Thank you, Brookie.
I think most people will know a bit about what you're up to these days, but just give us what are you actually up to these days, and what's your role currently?
Yeah, so I'm with the SA20 League, head up cricket operations there. Been a really incredible project, really. I think beyond all expectations. So something that's been really passionate, and I suppose as Dad mentions, it's actually an honor to have played cricket and then stay in cricket. I think that's where a lot of people strive to do, and a lot of people don't get the opportunity to. And I might sound virtuous and say, "Oh, I'm giving back," but in a way, it is. That I'm doing now to enable players and fans and cricket lovers to enjoy the game that I love. So in a way, yes, obviously it's a job and something that you pursue. But yeah, really passionate about it and really proud of what we've done, and hopefully it continues to grow. So yeah, that keeps me busy, very.
Jimmy, was that something, when you were starting out your career, was that something that you always wanted to have? You wanted to build a legacy. You obviously didn't know you were going to be as successful as you were back in the day, but the Cook family has given back to cricket like not many other families in South Africa. Is that something that you're very proud of as the patriarch of this family?
Yeah, look, I think at the end, I really did enjoy my coaching. I got involved in school teaching. I was a school teacher for many, many years, and thoroughly enjoyed coaching the younger players. And I must say, towards the end of my career, I say it in a very honest way, that I used to get more of a kick out of seeing the kids I coached do well than actually doing well myself. So I knew I could still make some runs and play decently, but when I saw a youngster who I'd coached play well, take wickets, score his runs, it gave me a huge kick. And I'm incredibly proud and happy that my kids could follow in that same thing. I mean, we've been a fantastic cricket family for ages and ages. For Stephen played at a high level, taken on an administrative role. Ryan, not at such a high level, but always loved his cricket, but more in a coaching role now. And he's done extremely well in his little walk of cricket life, and I'm sort of coming to the end of mine, but just great for me to see my two kids so involved in a game that I've loved so much and they love so much today.
I think the games nights in the Cook family must have been a little bit competitive. I mean, those must have been quite heated, right? I mean, like, you've got Ryan, you've got Stephen, you've got Jimmy Cook there, and your mom was like probably growing up. Tough scenes for your mom.
No, I tell you, hands down, my brother the most competitive.
Really?
Not even close.
Yeah.
Dad, the most gentle soul ever.
Yeah.
Always letting the kids win.
Yeah.
Like, competitive, but not to a fault. But Ryan, let me tell you, no matter what, there's going to be someone who's going to be competitive. There was someone that was going to get angry. Someone that was going to tip the board. It was going to be him. I suppose he's mellowed as he's got a little bit older, but you see that fiery side come out every now and then. I think even with his coaching,
But that it comes through in his coaching. He's a competitive guy. He has coached. He's with the Netherlands. He's the head coach of the Netherlands. So you need that competitiveness. You don't have the big budgets and the access to 5 different assistant coaches and stuff. So that kind of intensity you need at that level, right?
yeah, absolutely. I think at associate cricket, it's in a difficult stage. You expect it to be able to compete with the big nations with big budgets and professionalism, but then you don't really have those resources, but yet a whole lot of talented players. So yeah, that's been a good challenge for him, and I think something that his character, as you say, just embodies. Trying to get the best out of everyone. Whatever needs to be done, he'll do it.
Jimmy, I want to go back to the start. If you can take us back. There's many viewers of this podcast who are proper cricket badgers that will be very excited to see you talking here today. Take me back. Firstly, cricket wasn't your first sport that you really came known for. You were a professional footballer, or a footballer in South African football in the apartheid era, right? For Wits University, or Wits at the time. Just take us through that time period.
Yeah, look, I think at school, like I suppose most kids at that age, we played everything. I played football, I played cricket, I did a bit of tennis. I delved into a little bit of golf when I got to about 18, 19, 20 years old. But all the sports, I just wanted to play all the sports, as many as I could play. And I suppose from an what can one say, an accolades point of view and how far I got, probably by the time I got to matric, I had higher honours in football than I did at cricket. Yet, strangely, in the back of my mind, I was going to be a cricket player. I sort of enjoyed the game more. I sort of associated a bit more with that. And then I funnily enough, I got an offer to go overseas to play for Wolverhampton Wanderers when I was 16, 17 years old. And my dad said, there's no chance you're finishing school here. You're going to finish your schooling life here. Yeah. And by the time I finished school in that, cricket had sort of started to take over a little bit more. So it never became an option for me, and I became more of a cricketer. But luckily for us in those days, as against what you see these days, you could actually play cricket and football at the same time. Yeah. Nowadays, they overlap too much to ever be a cricketer and a footballer at the same time. But in the years we played, it was definitely an option. Quite tiring at times, I might say, but when you went from one practice to the next. But yeah, my football was okay, and I wasn't a bad player, but.
What position did you play?
I was originally a striker as a young guy, and then through doing a lot of coaching things, I started to understand the game a whole lot better. So Eddie Lewis was the coach at Wits University at the time, and he said to me, why did you play at the back? Because you're a good organizer, you know the game well. And so I became like a sweeper back. Okay. I call myself a poor man's Virgil van Dijk. But that's more or less the role I used to play. And I really liked my football days. And then
who were some of the players that you played with in that area? Just bring some names up.
Well, of our South African guys, Davy Jacobs, Mark Mocker were the guys I played with at Heath Broad, a couple of other guys, Rodney Bush played with us. And then we got a couple of overseas guys also came and played in the league. So yeah, I played with a couple of really good players, but don't think I could have ever made it at that level I watch today. I watch the Premier League in England played now, and I was never that sort of standard. Although a lot of people say no, I was, but I really don't think I was.
Yeah.
But thoroughly enjoyed my football. But cricket was always like that first love for me that I could really have a go at. And cricket was really my competitive sport, if you can put it that way.
Yeah.
And playing golf and playing football and all was just a love of playing sport.
And at the time, obviously, cricket was still a very much amateur sport. So did you see yourself actually building a career in cricket, or did you have to work at the same time? Like, just take us through what it looked like. It was easy for Stephen when he was playing. A little bit of studying in between, but it was professional, when he was playing.
Yeah, as a youngster, obviously, it was nowhere near professional at that time. So just loved, because I loved playing the game, and I was intrigued by all the different things that came up in cricket, and all the ups and downs. And I think cricket was a nice game for me, because it just taught you so many lessons of life. The failures and the ups and the downs, and you did well today, and it was yay, and you did better the next day, it was and you slowly learn to try and deal with those equally, and so you didn't have these huge ups and huge downs. And I suppose that carried all the way through in my coaching and all the rest of it. I tried not to have huge ups and downs in for the players and for myself, and just accept the fact that I got more today, and I would bat again tomorrow, and I could try and do it in the better. So I try to sort of get out of that. So I learned a lot of lessons of life, that I've still carried all of those lessons today out of actually playing as sport.
Just take us through. I mean, my production guys and I were talking about it before, and we were excited for this interview because, we're all cricket badgers. We love talking about the days gone by. That kind of era that you played in, the mean machine of Transvaal, just take us through some of those characters that you played with, the bowlers that you faced in the net, your teammates, your opposition that you played against. Just take us through that era. I'm sure a lot of our viewers and listeners would love to hear about from the legend himself, so those kind of names.
How long have we got?
Hours.
No, it was actually a very special time of my career, playing with guys who were, top class players at the time. I mean, you looked through our team, and you had your Graham Pollocks and your Clyde Rices and your Vince van der Bijls, and it was just incredible. Wherever you looked, there was just such quality. Yet the one word that always comes out to me through that era of the mean machine was pride. We had an enormous pride on performing well and trying to win, obviously, but just the pride of our performance, that we were never going to let our standards slip just because we might be playing a weaker team or things like that. So for us, it was a challenge of, we had to win a game by 100 runs or 8 wickets.
Oh, wow.
That was the challenge. It wasn't just to win the game, because we had a star-studded sort of lineup where everybody was going to do their thing. But we made a thing that it wouldn't be, oh, it's okay, someone else will do it, I don't have to worry. It was a case of, I must do it in case the others don't. So we had that incredible pride of the way we played, trying to make as many runs as we could, trying to take the wickets. But because we sort of lived in each other's pockets for 6 months, we became almost like a family. It's almost like a family. And the team hardly changed through a period of 5, 6, 7 years. The team changed. The odd guy here, Vince van der Bijl, came in, who had been there before. David Dyer retired, and Henry Fotheringham came in. So we had a couple of changes, but generally that team stayed pretty much the same all the way through.
Transfers, like we see today, half the domestic players transfer from, you don't know the teams from one season to the next. It's quite interesting there.
And you didn't have international cricket, so that was the top level that you were playing at. Like, that's an important thing. Transvaal versus Western Province was basically their test match of their time. That was as good as it got for them. So I think that also led to that continuity. Whereas now, how often do we see your Aiden Markrams or Marco Janssens playing in a provincial game? Hardly ever. Maybe a final or a knockout game era there. So I think a very different era in that way. But you can see why people, why you'd get 15,000 at the Wanderers for a regular first-class game, because that was essentially a test.
That's how I grew up. I mean, I watched Western Province, Transvaal, and that's how I grew up. But I mean, for you, Cookie, it's weird saying Cookie because there's actually 2 Cookies here. But anyway, Cookie, this is Sir Jimmy, this is Cookie. Cookie, growing up, as a young child, there's not many kids that will say that they hung around with Clive Rice, those kind of guys. How was that, just growing up with your dad as Jimmy Cook?
Yeah, I mean, looking back, it's almost surreal. Like, if you look at it in today's context, I mean, the change room was an open house. I mean, kids freely roamed there. I mean, there was no PMOA or anything we know these days. I mean, and the kids all got on with it. And, if you felt like hitting a ball, you just grabbed Dad's bat out of his bag and off you went and played. And, whether it was the Mackenzies or the Jennings kids or the Rice kids or whatever, that's where we grew up. I mean, Ryan and I grew up at the banks of the Wanderers, so it was like a second home for us. And I mean, it sounds really weird, but like, it helped, like, me not to be starstruck. I mean, Graham Pollock and Clive Rice would come around on a Saturday night for a bride to house.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't like out of the ordinary. and probably set me up really well in that way. And that, like, through my career, I never felt like, oh gosh, I'm playing against X, Y, and Z. Like, that was, the circles you lived in. But yeah, a very different era, but an amazing era. I mean, you talk about like the amateur versus the professionalism. I mean, I think there was only about a 6-year period when neither of us was opening the batting for Transvaal / Gauteng over that time. There was like a window of 6 years between Dad stopping and me starting. But to show how the professionalism changed, your last contract as a 40 years old, 250 first-class games or whatever it was the same value as my first contract 6 years later. Wow. In a bit of inflation here or there, but I mean, it just shows how that was the time when the professionalism was starting to change, how money started becoming important in the game, and you could effectively start to be a professional cricketer. So yeah, a very different era compared to, I mean, players playing now where families are fully included on the tours and everything like that, but there's definitely an arm's length distance from what happens in that performance.
Was that, that amateur era where you weren't playing for money, you were playing for the pride? Do you feel that in this kind of day and age that's kind of lost? It's not their fault, but that's the professional game now. But back in the day, do you feel that the fans respected your era a lot more because you were playing for the love of the game and you wanted to just entertain?
Yeah, I think maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure how to answer that. But I mean, it was amazing that we would go out and play in a game on a Friday night against Western Province at the Wanderers, and it was absolutely jam-packed with 20,000 people. And if you won, you got 200 rand, and if you lost, you got 100. So that's a low salary. That's put into some sort of top context of what we played. But then on a day when you didn't have anyone inside the stadium, then they said to us, well, who's going to pay for today? So it became one of those contentious points, and I suppose that's when the professionals started to come in and the guys started to get paid a little bit more. And I'm never sort of saying, gee, Dave, we didn't get any of you guys today. I saw lucky you got money. I think the guys thoroughly deserve what they get today. I mean, for these guys to be making large sums of money out of playing cricket, great. I know how hard they work. They train really well, and so be it. I've never sort of had a grudge against them. Oh, we never got anything, but these guys today, they get a bucket load. I think it's great that they get showed that they get what they deserve. They work really hard at what they're doing. They sacrifice. Their families have got to do all sorts of stuff to sacrifice as well. So great that it's now a nice professional era for the guys.
Do you actually enjoy watching cricket these days? Like, could you go and sit and do you like T20 cricket, for example? You don't come from that era of playing, but can you watch SA20? Do you enjoy it?
I do enjoy watching SA20. If I go along to watch a couple of games, and I'm not hugely in favour of 2020 cricket for young kids, because I think it brings along a lot of pressures on the smaller guys who are technically good but not physically strong.
Yeah,
they get under a lot of pressure from the masters to try and play differently, where you try to coach a guy to play proper cricket, let's call it. But they just can't, because they get put in at number 8 because they can't hit the ball. But I like the concept of 2020 cricket. I think 2020 cricket has improved 50 over cricket, which in turn I think is improving Test cricket, because now there's no more draws. The guys get in and they play and they score at good run rates. So I think 2020 cricket has played a massive part in our overall cricket standards getting better.
I can't imagine you if you had reverse sweep in the nets during your Transvaal days. That probably wasn't even a thing, but now like you coach kids in the Gary Erson Academy and they're lapping in the nets. How's your opinion of that when you see that happening?
Yeah, no, I'm one of those coaches that I don't like that to come in too early.
Yeah.
Often what I would say to a guy is that he comes in, he's 12 or 13 years old and he wants to scoop and have a fine leg and he wants to play reverse and all. And my first thing to him was that I saw Amy de Villiers bat when he was 17. He never did any of that. So just keep going. Keep going for a while, get your house in order, and then later we'll get.
He only built that into his game.
He built it into his game later. And I had a long chat with Heinrich Klaassen, and I was overseas there in India. I went across for a week of the IPL. Okay. And I asked him the same question, and he was also the same opinion. Just let the kids play properly first. And if you come across a really talented boy who can move on and kick on, then certainly show them, but give them a good base first, which I've always heard.
There seems to be I like, what Leandro Pretorius and Diewald Brevis has been saying in the media about their goal is to play Test cricket for South Africa, first and foremost. The others will naturally follow, but are you impressed with that kind of attitude with these youngsters coming through, where Test cricket is still the ultimate for a lot of these cricketers coming through?
Yeah, I would hope it is. I would certainly hope it is. I mean, they are cutting their teeth and they're getting places through playing good 2020 cricket. And Brevis has become, a really hot property in 2020 cricket, and so is Pretorius. But now they're getting extended and they're getting pushed further along the line. So I think, yes, I'm pleased that guys want to play Test cricket for South Africa, because Test cricket is a fantastic game to play. But often it comes through the other channels. I like the attacking part of it. I like the positive part about the way they're bowling and batting and things like that. So yeah, I think 2020 cricket's a massive thing for South Africa and for the world of Jim.
Just take me through you obviously had a massively successful domestic cricket career in South Africa, but then you had a very successful, but late on in your career, the county game with Somerset. Firstly, in that era, how did those overseas deals come about? There wasn't Colpack back in the day, so were you playing as an overseas pro? Were you playing as a rebel? How did that work?
Yeah, I originally got to Somerset, totally out of the blue. A guy phoned me up, Brian Rose from Somerset phoned me up and said, are you keen to come over? We'd like to play you as our overseas player. And I didn't even know that he knew. I said, how do you know me? He said, no, Clyde Ross told us to get in touch with you. Oh, wow. And apparently he'd been sent a tape of me batting in a game, in which I think I scored 20. But he said, no, it was good because I pulled Garth Leroux for 4, so he thought, well, this guy must be okay. Yeah. So they employed me there. And they really were 3 of the nicest years of my life in cricket, especially from a family point of view. We went overseas. The boys didn't come for the entire time, but they joined me. And because I'd been a school teacher and my wife was a school teacher, we homeschooled the kids for those times that they were across there, the 4 or 5 months that we were there. So it was just a great time to go off in the morning, play your cricket, finish the game, spend some time on the outfield with the kids, go and have something to eat. And they were still light at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and we could be a real family.
Yeah.
And so from that point of view, it was 3 of the most fantastic years of my life. They went to every tour we went on. The kids came with us because they could.
Yeah.
And they would do their work at home and in the apartment where we stayed. And then, it was just a wonderful time to be able to stay with the family, but be playing the sport you loved all at the same time and just enjoying it. And I think the kids thoroughly enjoyed it. I think if we said to them, which years did you really enjoy? I'm sure that would come up.
How was that growing up? I mean, that was not a normal kind of upbringing for how old were you at the time?
Those 2 years, I was probably between age like sort of 7 to 9, and that sort of hero. So your early grades. I mean, it had its pros and its cons. Yeah. I mean, you had to sort of be quite unsettled coming back, especially like your friends, the stuff like at that age, best friends doesn't see you for 5 months. It's not in the era of just picking up the phone and phoning. You literally didn't see your mate for 5 months. Yeah. You have to rekindle that. But in terms of, I played cricket all year round. It was just summer to summer. And Dad got looked after really well. Somerset was an amazing club with the members, their coaches. They looked after us like we were the stars. Yeah. So
had you started playing cricket at that time?
We
hit them around.
That was it was the days of mini cricket and that sort of stuff like that, and slowly working out hardball cricket maybe towards the end of it. But just that love and that passion for the game. Those members there, you know what I mean? We almost got treated like their kids. You know what I mean? Like the number of guys who would come and throw at us in the nets until we could play and whatever. And Dad
was it professional in county cricket at that time? Okay. So to have the family there was just like, but it obviously worked because I looked at the stats and I had to relook at them because you were there for 3 seasons. You scored 7,000 first-class runs during those 3 seasons. Something like, was it 28 centuries? I think during that time. That is, in this day and age, that's like ridiculous. That's record-breaking stuff. You're a legend there for 3 seasons. Most people, it takes 15 seasons. Some players don't ever achieve that kind of stuff. You obviously enjoyed yourself there.
Yeah, I was very lucky. A lot of runs off the edge. No, look, I was very fortunate that we played for Somerset at Taunton, and Taunton was probably the best batting wicket in England. So it's not often that you're going to face Malcolm Marsh and Kirkley Ambrose, and you look forward to it because you know it's quite a good pitch to play on, and you're going to have a chance. Yeah, you know, it's not like you were batting on a green seeming bouncing wicket at Wanderers where you knew that your life was in danger, basically.
Who were some of your teammates at Somerset?
Chris Taburet was our captain. Absolutely fantastic man. Neil Mallender, who's now on the umpires panel. Vic Marks, he does a lot of commentating and broadcasting and things like that. So they were a couple of the guys that were around at the time. We didn't have a great side, you know, I say that with all due respect to the guys who played with us. We didn't have a fantastic team. We had some handy batsmen. Our bowling attack was average. I think that would be a fair word to use. So we struggled a lot, especially in county games where we had to get 20 wickets. It was just not going to happen. And a lot of the games then were 3-day games. Okay. So you didn't have a lot of time, and a lot of things were declarations and things like that to try and set up a match. But the enjoyment of playing with the guys, absolutely fantastic. Just love the guys around. You know, finish your day's play, go and throw some balls to the kids, have a pint or two in the change room with the guys and that. And just I thoroughly enjoyed those years. I know. Even if I think I would have enjoyed it even if I didn't get any runs.
Nothing like a little bit of learning maths on the boundary at Taunton while your dad's out batting. I mean, there's worse ways to grow up, that's for sure. Eh?
No, there certainly are. And I mean, I was really like, I got a really practical education, actually. Yeah. It was life experience, you know what I mean? And so, you know, very different to a lot of how my peers grew up. And like I say, there were pros and there was cons. I mean, I never got transferred any of that football ability whatsoever. Maybe because I just didn't play it. I played cricket all year round. Yeah. But I definitely didn't get that. I mean, my nickname at the Lions when I played softball was Toblerone Foot. Wow. So I don't see no triangle. So either went left or right, but definitely not where I was aiming. So I got none of those genes. Yeah. But yeah, it's just great memory.
It set you up for your counties. I mean, you had a brief, a little bit tougher batting conditions at Durham and stuff. But you played for Durham and Glamorgan.
I played for Durham and Glamorgan 2 part seasons. I definitely got sold a dream by Dad's time at Somerset and those flat wickets. I arrived there late March to Durham. I think it was about 2 degrees and there was about 6 inches of grass on the wicket. Needless to say, I didn't score 2800s in my time there. If I scored 28, I was pretty happy. So it didn't go to plan, but I'm glad I got to actually play. Yeah. Because I got to experience that little bit, and you still got made to feel really special. I mean, they obviously wanted the old pro to score a few more runs, but it was right at the back end of my career, like it was cool for Dad. Yeah. So I think it's playing cricket in the UK is special. However you do it, whether you're a 19-year-old kid who goes over on a gap year and plays club cricket, which I did, just a fantastic growing up experience. To playing county cricket, there's just an appreciation. There's a different culture for cricket there. Yeah. And I think that's important. You know, you talk about Test cricket and like where does this fit in terms of a Breakfast or a Pretorius and it's very important to understand the context of that. So for a South African to say that is something. For a Joe Root to say that, I think it's a lot easier. There's a culture of that. Yeah. So it's really encouraging, and I'm a firm believer that T20 cricket and Test cricket can actually live side by side. Agreed. There's some symbiosis there that's like the one can't actually succeed without the other. Yeah. And will Test cricket maybe in future only be played amongst 6 or 8 teams? Quite possibly. Yeah. But I think there's enough history there that enough people want it to carry on, and that it will. Because I mean, we constantly see it. I mean, this England India series. I mean, it's fascinating. The World Test Championship final. I mean, you were there for the whole game. I mean, captivated, sitting there watching every ball. I mean, I don't think I watched a T20 game with that intensity. Yeah. I mean, so there's a difference. It's there's a purity of it. I mean, sitting there at Lord's, there wasn't any extra entertainment on the big screen. There wasn't any blaring music. Yeah. It was about the main thing was the main thing, and that was good enough. And absolutely, it's quite something to try and emulate that. So does that mean fewer tests in fewer countries? Probably, but gee, when it is a spectacle, it's a spectacle.
Take me back to your when you played for Somerset. Was this after your international career or before, or like during that time when you made your Test debut at the back end of your career?
Yeah, we had the Rebel series that we played the Rebel series. Before you done, then I went to Somerset. And basically I left Somerset and came back because we were back in international cricket. And I thought I don't want to burn myself out playing all these times overseas when I'm going to still have a chance of playing for South Africa. As it turned out, I didn't play that many more years for South Africa. It was great that I went over there and did it. My test career was more the Rebels series, when I played a lot of my so-called
The Rebel series. I mean, we are too young to know about that, and there's not a lot of historical stacks and video footage of that or anything like that. So how was that as a player? I mean, it must have been great, but also tough at the time as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was we knew it wasn't official.
Yeah.
So you were only playing 4-day test matches for a start. It wasn't 5 days.
But it was still considered first class.
Yeah, first class cricket, test cricket for want of a better word, but only played over 4 days. For me, it was a case of I was good enough to play for South Africa, and, even though I wasn't getting officially recognised as having been a South African player. And then, as I say, I was very lucky right at the back end of my career to get a couple of official test matches and a couple of one-day matches in there. But, it wasn't... I would imagine that playing in a real test match was probably different to playing in our Rebel test matches. It was official recognition and you were playing now for South Africa and blah, blah, blah. Look, for me, it was a challenge. It was just the challenge of playing somebody new, playing against another country, playing against different guys, testing your ability against other guys around the world. So really enjoyed it.
And when the players, we just know the word readmission, but there was a lot more to that behind the scenes. What went on with the players like yourself, Clive Rice, those kind of guys that were at the twilight of their careers and going, okay, we have the opportunity. What was it like from an administrative point of view? Them telling the players, okay, we're back in cricket. Like, what actually goes on behind the scenes there?
Yeah,
it must have been crazy times.
It was amazing. I mean, it came about very quickly from nothing. We suddenly got phoned and said, listen, in a week's time, you're leaving for India. You're back in cricket and you're going on this little tour to India. So there was like no preparations. Like 1 week and we were on the flight and we were gone.
Oh, wow.
So that was, if normally you'd have a test tour coming up, there'd be lots of
warm-up matches.
A couple of warm-up games. No, we just got straight off you go. And before we knew it, we were at Eden Gardens about to play the first one-day game. But just great because we knew, well, especially from my point of view, I thought, we're back in international cricket. I might not have a lot of this, but gee, for South Africa and for those youngsters coming up and about to play, this is going to be unbelievable for them because we got some incredible support at Eden Gardens. And in fact, the Indian guys still talk about it, that at the end of the game, we walked a lap of honor to where we lost.
Yeah.
But we walked around thanking the people of India for inviting us back into cricket. And so I think a lot of us knew it wasn't necessarily for us, but it was going to be for future generations of cricketers that this was something they could look forward to.
Cookie, do you think that kind of that respect and that the Indians had with South Africa at that time plays its role now in 2025 with the good relations that there's been some testy times between India and South Africa over the years, but do you think that kind of respect that they had for South Africa at that time and how they re-entered cricket still has that role that India and South Africa have today?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is a strong relationship between the two countries. I mean, to step out there and put that tour together. I mean, I remember vividly how well they were received, and it was Clive Rice and Mother Teresa, and it was really something. Obviously, for guys of our age, it was, those memories are a little bit more blurred.
Yeah.
It's hugely in the context of our country and where we're going in sport. We know the power of sport and the vehicle that it is. So that tour is immense. Eden Gardens there. I don't think there was much in terms of counting the exact numbers, but counting the numbers. Capacity these days where it's proper ticketed. There was standing room only. Who knows? 100,000, who knows how many were in that ground. So for those that you watched that, so it was phenomenal.
And you opened the batting with Adrian Hudson, right? How was that conversation of who's taking the first ball? Because it wasn't just taking the first ball. That was an historic first ball. You were the first South African since readmission to take on the red ball of officially back in Test cricket. So did you have a conversation, or was it like, I'm taking it?
No, look, I'd always done it. I was probably the slightly older statesman of the two of us. So I said to him, listen, I'll take the first ball. So you don't have to worry about that. Everything will be fine. But on our way walking out to bat, I can't even tell you how much he was shaking. It was like almost scary. He was shaking like a leaf on the way out. And I thought, geez. So I said to him, do you want to take first ball? Are you nervous? Would you like to take the first ball? And just his reaction, he just said, no, you those. And I even knew from there that his chances of doing well were going to be nothing wrong. So he was out in the first over for naught. And I could just see he was so nervous of playing in that particular environment, whereas I'd had a little bit of it through playing rebel cricket, so I knew what it was all about. But, I mean, it was quite intimidating. 95,000 people in Eden Gardens we'd never seen before. And normally when we would play, as the bowler was running into it, a hush would come over the crowd. This got louder. As a couple of Dev ran into bowl the first ball, it just went louder. By the time he bowled the ball, you thought a hand grenade is coming down. But yeah, it was great. Yeah, so yeah, I took it on because it's something I'd always done.
Was there part of you that said, I deserve that. I deserve that test match. You knew you were not going to get 100 test matches. You knew it was only going to be a few. But was there a part of you that said, look, I've earned that. I deserve that. No, that cricketers these days, they're very humbled when they come to that, and they have deserved, they've earned it. But did you feel part of like, I deserve this?
Well, I don't know if I felt I deserved it. At the time when our official test came around, I was, right towards the end of my career. So maybe on the record that I had, I maybe did deserve to play. But obviously I was going to lose out to a younger guy sooner or later because I was going to, either going to retire or the other guys were really going to become better. So I didn't really think I had to deserve it, but I thought on my record that I had in the game, I probably did deserve it. But I always looked at every game I played as a real honour. I didn't sort of think, oh, well, I should be in this team. Have I done well enough? Do I deserve to be playing? Yes, okay, well then they must pick me. So it was more a case of, I think I do deserve to be here, but am I still good enough to be doing it?
And then when that 92,000, you were like, no, cool, I'm done after this. Can't get much better than that, eh?
Yeah, no, it was a very special tour. That, I mean, we managed with the first game. I think we were all very nervous. Yeah. And then that little flippant Tendulkar came on and scored some runs and beat us in the first game. We had them gone. We only made about 180, 190, but they were 20 for 5.
Yeah.
Alan Donald wiped out their top order in no time.
Yeah.
But Tendulkar at 15 years old came and got about 70.
50 years old at the time.
Yeah, got 70, and they beat us by 2 or 3 wickets.
What was the talk in the change room? Like, who is this kid? Like, we haven't seen a 15-year-old kid like this.
Jeez, luck. Well, I mean, it wasn't necessarily that tour. Then they came back to South Africa, and he came on the tour of South Africa.
Yeah.
And his first test was at Wanderers, and Alan Donald and a couple of the guys were bowling quite quick, and he kept stepping away and flying it over the slips for 4s and 6s. And I can still remember walking up and saying, "You're scared, my boy. You'll never make it in this game. You're scared. You chicken. You're running away. What's wrong with you?" But he was so far ahead of all of us in his technique and how he played. Yeah. He was light years ahead of us in the way he played. And I actually went and apologized to him for many years later. When I met him at some do, I said, I don't know if you'll ever remember this, but I want to apologize for what I said to you that day, because you did a great at cricket. And I told you were scared and you were never going to make it. So I really do apologize for that.
Well, he had a pretty decent career. But I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a crazy, interesting Cook nuance in cricket that you faced the first ball for South Africa in Test cricket since readmission, the red ball. You also faced the first ever white ball, faced the first ball with South Africa play in one-day cricket. And Cookie, you were the first test player to ever face the pink ball. Am I right?
I was
for South Africa. But
I was definitely the pink ball. You were red ball, white one-day cricket though.
One-day cricket, yeah.
And then...
Yeah, I can't remember if the ball was red or white. Did you see that? Yeah, you see that though.
But the first tour against India, you played in whites.
Yeah, we did play in whites. I think we played with the red ball, definitely.
Played with the red ball.
Played with the red ball for that first time.
Yeah, seriously.
But it might have been the first
time
I played in
the white ball.
Maybe we came back to South Africa.
It was when you came back to South Africa. Yeah,
that could be possible. Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
I mean,
that's good.
I don't think that when they picked you for the test match, the pink test match, they knew that, but that is something that is pretty cool. I was looking at the stats. I'm like, surely not. Surely you guys know this. And then I was thought like that's something that the Cook family can own. That's a nice little red ball, white ball, pink ball. The Cooks own that.
No, luckily that was my only ball as well.
That was true. You got a first baller, but thankfully your son did a little bit better in his first test match. He got a century there. Cookie, just we'll come back to Jimmy. Give him a little bit of a rest here. Cookie, your domestic career, you obviously had a massive domestic cricket career. You still sit with the record even after Vian Mulder's 367 the other day, 390 runs. You've got the record for the first class, the highest score in first class cricket in South Africa. It was against the Warriors. I looked at some of the names. That was a decent, Mackay and Tini was there, Luwabo Totobe, Rusty Taron, Monty Panesar. I looked at the scorecard of this game. Monty Panesar was in the Lions team that day. Explain, how did he land up there? I can't remember Monty Panesar ever playing for the Lions.
Monty Panesar came out as an overseas player, played a handful of games for the Lions.
Yeah.
We went through a stage where we had overseas players for short. Steve Harmison played a couple of games as well for us. Monty Panesar came out and played. Yeah, so he played in.
I looked at that
game.
scorecard, I'm like, surely that's not the England cricketer Monty Panesar. I mean, but how many Monty Panesars were there?
No, there was him. Yeah.
I mean, just take us through that innings. 390. Yeah. Still isn't beaten to this day. I mean, how
Well,
much
should have been broken a few weeks ago. let's be honest.
How did you feel watching beyond there? Like stuff Brian Lara's record. He's after your record.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, what is he doing? Paying homage to Lara. Who's he? Yeah. No, Flip. It was a surreal couple of days, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I think back on it now. I mean, the context of it was. I mean, I think the Warriors batted for T on day 2 and scored 500 and plenty. By the time I even got a
It was the Buffalo Park, eh?
yeah, in East London. And I mean, if you saw that first hour that I batted that second afternoon, you would never have thought this oak's going to get 10, never mind 390. I played and missed at Mackay and Tini. I nicked Sotsobe through the slips. I mean, I survived countless appeals off Rusty Taron. And then almost the next day, it completely changed. And then I think I was not out 200 at the end of the third day. And Tommy Tsorokele and I had run a partnership. And we were going to declare overnight and try and make a game for it on the last day. And the Warriors said, no, they're going to try bowl us out and enforce the follow-on. And Dave Nosworthy, as the coach, came to me and said, Stephen, you will get this chance very rarely in your life. He says, we will not declare on you.
Yeah.
You bat until you're done.
Were you the captain at the time?
No. Neil Mack was captain, I think.
Okay.
And said, we're not declaring. You could just keep going. And a lot of that blurred, only because I watched back the videos of it to actually realize what went on. But the big one for me was actually going past Dad's score. I knew I couldn't get to 64 first class hundreds. I knew I couldn't get all the runs he scored in England.
Yeah.
But as I got past 300, I always knew 313. That was the number.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest moment of the day. Everything after that was just like a bonus.
Where were you at the time? Were you there? You obviously weren't there.
No, I was in Joburg watching him play, and I thought to myself, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know at the time they were just going to continue batting. So it would be interesting. I thought to myself, I wonder when will they declare, what will they do? But, like Stephen said, they decided they didn't want to have a game, so it was just a case of bat.
Yeah.
But like he told me he celebrated more when he passed my score than he passed the South African record.
Normally it's the dad texting the son saying, well done. It's probably him texting you saying, I got you. I finally got one up on you. Eh? That must have been quite special.
No, it was a very, very special day. I mean, and I totally relate to what Vian probably went through a little while ago. I mean, I remember walking in at T on 390, and at my spot in the change room, Neil Mack and the boys had literally printed off the all-time first-class scores, and they were scratching them out as you went along. And I sat there, and in those 20 minutes I sat there, I mean, I suddenly started looking at the names that were just ahead of me, and that's actually the biggest reason I got out. I walked out afterwards, and the context of where I was at, like, I was with names I shouldn't be around, and I got out 2 balls after tea. But I mean, just you talk about Dad and how he reacted. We had this, like, it almost turned into a ritual, didn't it? I mean, I don't know if it was your idea of keeping me humble, but every first class 100 I got, you'd phone me the next morning, and the phone call started exactly the same way. You'd go, I can hear this voice, mate. It goes, good. Well done, my boy, eh? First class 100, number 30, eh? Yeah, oh, well done. 34 to go. that was it. It was this ultimate acknowledgement from Dad, like what you'd achieved, like well done, but like don't think that you like too big for your boots, like get back to it, like, and that was all I ever needed. I mean, and on Test match debut there, I mean, gonna make my debut at Centurion, 33, 34 years old.
Yeah.
Phoned me in the morning like he did so often before big games, and all he said was simple line. Phone call probably lasted 15 seconds. He said, my boy, if you just don't get out first ball, you've done better than me. So good luck. Like, what kind of advice is that? I mean, but it's exactly what I actually needed. And I mean, I think that's something that I'm very grateful for. Like, I see a lot of parents and kids and trying to forge this professional sport, professional cricket, and dads living vicariously through their kids. And, you know, what was the pressures of, you know, me playing, and, you know, would I eventually get out of Dad's shadow? Because, I mean, early on in my career, I was very much. I mean, I don't think there was a single article written where it wasn't Stephen Cook, you know, the son of Jimmy. And I remember thinking, gee, if I can just get that, the son of Jimmy, like, out of these articles, maybe I'm actually half a decent player. And so that's the context. But I mean, he never pushed me. He never, like, when you were young, it was going to the nets. I had to ask. He'd never say, "Let's go down to the nets." It was conversations as simple as that, and he never tried to like force his way in on things. And like, I don't know how many players their dad was their primary coach, even as a profession. I mean, at age 30, he was still my guy. As much as I had some of the best coaches in the world, they all knew, and some of them probably found it rather difficult. I'm actually listening to Hill.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to be. So
Could you just take us through your Test debut, Centurion? Firstly, like when you got the call up, how did that come about? You obviously had a massively successful domestic career, and you had to wait a long time for your opportunity. How was that for you?
yeah, I did wait a very long time. I mean, obviously opened with Graham at school together. He obviously had the career he had, played 100 Test matches, and only a couple of openers post that did I get a crack. So yeah, it was really cool. I mean, I remember thinking like, I've got one Test match. It was the last Test match of our summer. I thought this is probably the only one I'm going to get. They'd used Stuart van Sail as a sort of makeshift opener. England had won the series, and there I got thrust into Centurion, and what is like, I remember the most about it is like I wasn't nervous. It was almost like this is what I've been preparing my whole life for, and I think the strength of franchise cricket in the years leading up to that actually prepared me really well. You know, not only myself, there were a couple of guys of that era. I remember Kyle Abbott making his debut and being able to perform straight away. Mashanta Lange being able to perform straight away. Vernon Philander being able. It was almost like there was this tough, hard first-class cricket. You know, there were just 6 franchises. Every game was hard cricket. And so you had a better chance of sort of being prepared to be able to step up. And I remember thinking that step up, there was definitely a step up, but it wasn't as big as everyone had made it out to be. And I think it was lucky I'd been facing the Philanders and the Kleinfelds and the Steins in domestic cricket. And so it felt kind of like, hey, I can handle myself on this. So, yeah, I think that made it easier, but it was just, it was one of those dream days. I mean, Jimmy Anderson, the great bowler that he is, dishing up a leg side half volley first ball to knock through mid-wicket. It was almost surreal.
Yeah. You wouldn't have minded that from for your first ball, eh?
I said, you didn't quite get the ball that I got. I got a nice little outswing of pitching off stump from Capel Dev and nicked it to slip. Like, so a nice little half volley on leg stump, and thank you very much.
There was a little bit of controversy on that because that was the first Test match, if I'm not mistaken, where the third umpire was actually in play.
Yeah, for run-outs only, though.
For run-outs.
I think run-outs and stumpings.
Yeah.
Was only line decisions. Yeah, I nicked the first one, and to me, it looked like it had bounced in front of the slip fielder. You, like, scooped it.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't have known if it caught. It's one of those low ones that he wouldn't have known. But the guys around him, I think, should have known. And the strange part for me is that the umpire down at Buckner, Steve Buckner, the West Indian guy, was the umpire down at the bowler's end. Yeah. And the square leg umpire actually ended up giving me out because he asked square leg, and square leg, it was like 30 meters further that way. Said, yeah, I know it carried. And I thought, no, there's no way it's that carried. Yeah. Anyway, what can you do? That umpire's got his finger to put a walk off. And
That test match actually was Tendulkar was the first person to be given
run out.
with the third with the camera.
Correct.
Quite a historical test match all round. a lot going on for that test match.
Yeah.
Cookie, obviously, your playing career was coming to the end and stuff, and you transitioned very easily into your next role. Just take us through that when you knew it was that time to say thanks very much in your transition from there.
Yeah, listen, transitioning out of professional sport is something that's always fascinated me. I remember reading a lot of autobiographies while I played, and the most interesting chapters always, how did it come to an end?
Yeah.
I knew whether it was South African players, whether it was the Aussies, I was, all the greats, the English, how did their careers come to an end? And I think it's so different for so many different people. I mean, for some it's a financial burden, for some it's an identity burden. It just manifests itself in so many different ways. It wasn't easy. I mean, you probably can't say it was easy. There were things that I'd put in place that made it easier. I mean, I'd studied, which wasn't easy, but I'd studied at university, done a couple of degrees, which helped. I'd been involved with SACA, with the Players Association, on their exco, so I had quite a good understanding of sort of the game from the other side. And very grateful to Tony Irish and Andrew Brisket at SACA, who, when I stopped playing, brought me on board first as a consultant and then in their cricket operations department, and helped me transition and use the skills that I'd developed, because I think that skill transfer is what people find so hard.
Yeah.
You've played, you've led, you've done all this for 18 years in my case, and then, well, what are these skills you've got, and how do they translate to business, to something else? And I think that's the difficulty. You've had your days structured in such a set way, training at this time, matches here, this is what your calendar looks like. And now, well, life is yours to do. Plus the fact that, I mean, in my case, I was mid-30s, I was 36, I think, when I stopped. And all your peers who you've studied with and you've grown up with, they're partners at law firms, they've got businesses, and now all of a sudden you almost feel like you're starting at the very beginning again. You've been at the top, and now it's a second career. So really lucky that I was able to work out what are those skills and how can I translate those. And so I'm very grateful to the time I spent at SACA. I think that helped me to understand what cricket's like actually from the other side. And thank goodness you as a player don't actually understand that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if every time I knew, like what I know now, sitting about 6 years post playing, every time I took guard, I think I would have viewed that game of cricket very differently. If I knew what was going on actually behind those stands, if I knew what was going on in those boardrooms, which I now have a better idea of, I'm not so sure I would have been able to play with the same clarity of mind, because I had a clear mind. It was just bat versus ball. That's all that mattered. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey of transition, and I see so many people go through it so differently, and so you see some do it successfully, others not, and it's not unique to cricket. But I think that cricket, because of how much time it takes, rather than rugby, which is, over in an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's these long days drawn out. It becomes part of your identity. And I think that's what's really difficult for players, whether they've done well financially or not. And so that's always been a passion for me. And now at SA 20, obviously the guy who, wasn't very good at T20 cricket, running a T20 league, which is really cool in a way. So, as much as I've been I suppose that's been my views on Test cricket. Test cricket gave me everything. It gave me the platform. So that's certainly something I don't want to die.
But I think that the players that are coming through, a lot of them you've played with, and you've got the respect of every single player that plays SA20, which I think is incredible. Jimmy, back in the day, you obviously didn't have a players' union. Would that have helped in a way, or you didn't even know what that was all about back in the day? I mean, you see this era now, they're playing with player union protection.
Yeah, no, we knew very little of that. We just got on and played. Ours was let's call it an amateur setup compared to what it is today. No, we just got on and played. We loved the game. We enjoyed the playing. And you went down. You had a very similar calendar every year. You played the New Year game down here in Cape Town. We played Boxing Day up in Joburg. So everything was like just there for you to go and play. And yes, of course, you were trying to win and all the rest of it, but very different to the way it is today.
Okay, guys, we're getting to the final hour of the day's play, let's call it. We've got our partners here, our friends at Bootlegger, and they obviously do a lot of coffee roasting. And I think this is going to be a very different answer for both of you. So it's a very unique situation here. But I want to know, Jimmy, before stump mics, you played in the era before stump mics, before you could get called to inquiries and stuff after the day's play. Some of the chirps back in the day must have been very non-PC. So, like, can you remember something that really just, like, somebody chirped you or you heard a chirp that was really a really cool roast?
Yeah, I don't know, towards at this front end of my career when I was young and trying to make my way in cricket, I obviously used to get a couple of nice chips. I can still remember the late Mike Proctor appealing for a caught behind against me, and I didn't think I'd hit it, so I stood, and I was just a youngster on the block. And I stood there and I was given not out, and he gave me some chip and whatever, and he said to me something like, "Do you walk when you bowled?" and I didn't quite know what to say, but at that particular time of the season, I hadn't been bowled yet, so I just naively said back to him, "Well, I don't know, the situation hasn't arisen yet." It was quite a strange one, but I think towards the back end of your career, you tend to get less of it because you're more experienced, and the guys know they're basically wasting their time saying something to you, and even Shortsy, who we know is going to be on a thing soon. He would have a couple of chips with me. I just turn my back and walk away. So I'm not quite sure what he was saying to me, but there were a couple of choice words in there. But not a lot towards the end of my career, funny enough, and very little in England. Strange.
You had like 64 test centuries against your name. I don't think there'd be a bowler with the balls enough to chirp.
Yeah, in England, very little, very, very little. I can remember the odd guy here and there having a remark to make. But in England, it was so well policed by the umpiring. The umpiring was absolutely brilliant in England. And so if someone was going to have a go, the umpire would just call him over and say, "Hey, okay, that's enough. You've had your say. Shut up and go and bowl."
Okay.
So we didn't need, as a batter, you didn't need to say it.
Yeah.
And I suppose as batsmen, like we both were, you're going to bear the brunt of it because it's hard to say something back as a batter.
Yeah.
Because, you get out the next ball and then you are in trouble. So you tend to keep quiet.
Cookie, from your side, a chirp, obviously you played in the era of stump mic where it may be a little bit more refined.
Yeah, I think they're probably a lot more sort of subtle and stuff like that. I like that little bit of niggles. You know what I mean? It's something that I mean, almost you don't want to go out of the game.
Yeah.
And I think with the advent of franchise cricket and a lot of players who play against each other in an international game share a change room half the year in their franchise team. So I think that's also changed the relationships a little bit in terms of it's very hard to be really mean to a guy who you're actually going to share a change room with like next week.
Yeah.
So I think it's changed in that way, probably more so than the policing and the stump mics and all of that. And I think people also are a lot more aware of what's, as you say, is PC and what's not really.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously some real characters of the time. And I think, back in Dad's era, there must have been some really prized things said.
Some of your teammates must have been filthy back in the day from a chirping point of view. So let's name and shame one or two of those buzz. Who was the worst buzz from your mean machine days?
I think let's call them the tough guys.
Yeah.
Were probably Alan Curry and Ray Jennings.
Okay.
They were probably the two that would give it a little bit. When Alan was bowling, he would say a few things. Ray from behind there would be giving you some stick. And I mean, Ray actually went out and sometimes looked to stir the guy. Like he'd be walking between overs. Yeah. And even though the batters were chatting about something totally different, he would say, "What do you mean you're not scared of Clive Ross?" And the guy would "I never said that." And so that would stir up something and get us going. But look, they were tough characters on the field. The rest of the guys were all in the mean machine years. The guys were pretty much, listen, let's just beat these guys playing cricket. We don't have to worry too much. Ricey was very competitive on the field. He would say a few things. Like a guy walked in a cap and he said to me, "You forgot me something, eh?" And the guy looked at you and said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You forgot something when you came down here." I said, "What?" He said, "No, don't. You'll see soon." Next one hit him straight on the score. So that was the type of guy he was. He was ultra competitive. Yeah, he was very competitive.
That's very cool. Okay, guys, we've got a section here called the Declaration. Not many of you were probably declared back in your day, but where it's quick-fire questions. So not 1-1. I'm going to ask both of you. So let's start. Best bowler you've ever faced?
In South Africa, the responder Alan Gold.
Okay, and overseas?
Overseas was Akram.
He
went Lancashire versus Somerset. He played for Lancashire, and he was playing around when he played in those games. So I'd like to know if I faced him in a test. But I think Stephen also faced Wasim Akram, actually.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Okay. Where was that?
Somerset.
Yeah, tour game before the 2003 World Cup in South Africa. I was a youngster.
Yeah.
He was at the back end of his career. Yeah, serious
Oh, wow.
bowler. Serious bowler.
Jeez. Was that the best bowler you ever faced?
Dale Steyn.
Dale Steyn.
Dale Steyn had it all. Whatever skill you needed for a day, he had it. Yeah, best bowler I've seen played with and against.
Awesome. One current or former player you would have loved to have batted with that you didn't necessarily, that you never batted with, but a player from an opposition team that you would have liked to have had as a teammate.
AB de Villiers.
That would have been interesting. Cookie?
I'll answer it slightly differently. I would have loved to have batted with in their era.
Yeah.
Just as a point of difference. So
No.
in that mean machine,
Yeah.
that in that order with those guys. Like what was it like to play in a team that played like that? So
That's proper, yeah. Most underrated player you played with or against? We'll start with you, Cookie. Underrated.
underrated. I'm gonna go. It's gonna sound totally left field, but Dominic Hendricks, who's captain of the Lions, though, I think proper underrated. I think only a couple of things here and there go, and that guy could have played international cricket. I think he's got something, proper character, good guy, like very underrated. I mean, if you look at the success the Lions have had, he's never been their star player, but he's been rock solid across formats. So now there's it's more in that domestic type of thing. It's not the big name player, but yeah, I think he's a lot better than what people have realized.
Agreed. Jimmy?
I think a guy who was an absolutely brilliant player but never quite got the recognition that the other guys got around him, either for South Africa or Transvaal, was Henry Fotheringham. I think he was an exceptionally good player, especially for the reason that he went from being a middle order guy to an opener, which is much harder transition, I think, to make than being an opener and then going lower down the order later in your career. So he transitioned from there to opener simply because that was the one gap that was open in that team of ours.
Yeah.
And I thought he was an absolutely superb player, both of pace and spin. So as an opener, he would still score, but when the spinners came on, he could keep his scoring going. Whereas for me at that time, I opened with him, I battled a bit more against spin, and he just played spin like there was no problem. But he never quite got the recognition that your Graham Pollocks and those Albert Kalachran got. And I thought he was actually a wonderful player.
This is more for Jimmy. If there was one cricketer from your era who would be a 10 million rand buy in the SA20 auction, who would that have been
From my era,
from your era?
Adrian Cooper.
Got to be. I mean, if you didn't answer that, I was going to answer that for you. Come on.
Jimmy, I'm gonna ask you a favor afterwards to try and get Adrian Caper onto the biggest man in cricket, because Adrian was one of those heroes that really got my love for the game going, and it would be an honor to have him. I think he's Cape Town based, if
Elgin, I think.
if I'm not mistaken. So Adrian Caper, he would definitely.
There you
Your side, would have put him in the auction any day. 10
You
million
would have got in our marquee set, wouldn't you?
He fits the profile of the 2020 cricketer.
He was way ahead.
He's way ahead of his time. Way ahead of his time.
Okay, the one question that I was going to ask was, who's more competitive at family game nights? But we've established that Ryan is the most competitive. Okay, so final question: if you weren't a cricketer, what would you be doing?
I hope I'd be playing golf. I love my golf. I love to watch golf. I'm watching the British Open at the moment, just trying to watch all the guys play. Yeah. I'm intrigued by the game because there's so many small things that go for and against, and you can shoot 70 one day and 85 the next, and it's such an intriguing game for me, and something that if you don't work at it, you just got absolutely no chance of becoming really good. So I would have loved to grow up in an era of golf, because I also watch the way the guys play the game, and there seems to be a genuine affection for their competitor. So at the end of a round, you'll see the camaraderie amongst the players, and well done and congratulations in the rounding. That was always my way of playing sport. Play hard, play as well as you can on the field, but when the day is done, that's it. The day is done. Be mates, go and chat to guys, learn what makes them tick as well. So that was always my way of playing sport, and I see a lot of that in golf. That's why I think that I would have been drawn towards that.
Only difference is nowadays the golfers get on their private jets with each other. You guys didn't get on your private jets after and go to the next game, And Cookie, I think you'd probably say you'd be a professional trail runner, right?
No, definitely not. I'd probably been a lawyer had it not been for cricket. I think much to my mother's disgust, I remember at, I think about, must have been age 26, 27, saying, oh, you got your LLB now, you're going to stop with this cricket stuff, you know, like, you're not going to go down that route of your dad. I've seen that. That's, we've been there, done that. Look at all your friends are doing. Yeah, so I probably would have done that. I mean, yeah, sort of law and the way of thinking sort of appeals to me. I mean, one of the things I love the most about cricket is the whole strategy of it. I think that's sort of, from a legal point of view, problem solving, looking at things from both sides is pretty much up my alley. So yeah, that's what I would predict.
Jimmy, Stephen, thank you very much for being here today. It's been an absolute honor. And knowing that you are part of Gary Kirsten's academy here in Cape Town, and knowing that next generation are coming through with the wisdom of Jimmy Cook, and knowing that South African cricket, one of the major tournaments of South African cricket, has been run by Stephen Cook as part of it, it means that our cricket is in good hands. I want to thank you just for being here. Thank you for your love of cricket, your service of cricket, your memories. And I think, you know, a lot of viewers that are going to watch this podcast and listen to it you'll bring back some proper nostalgia for that hero. So I just want to thank you. You're a legend. Cookie, you're a legend as well. But thank you very much for being here. A little gift from our friends at Bootlegger. Some single origin coffee beans.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. The Cook family are all caffeined up. I know you guys like your coffee, and thank you. I'm the biggest man in cricket, and this was Stephen and the legend Jimmy Cook. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cookie.
Well done.
Thanks.
Very like active. Very nice.